One thing that you always hear about this city is that it's super crowded and busy. But as you can see, there's not a whole lot going on because it's Christmas Day. One place that was open on Christmas was Churreria El Moro, which is a renowned churro spot. It was amazing, and full disclosure, we might have gone like 3 times throughout the trip. But we asked a bunch of people in Mexico City where the best churro place was, and it was just unanimously this one, so I regret nothing. Apart from having the best churros in town, you can also watch the churros being made at this place, which I think is kind of cool. I love seeing how food is made, so I was pretty into that. Another place that was obviously open on Christmas Day was the Mexico City Metropolitan Cathedral, which is located in the historic center of Mexico City, also known as Zocalo. And although I'm not a huge church person, this was massive, so it was pretty cool to see. Now, if you're wondering what's going on here, we are at a Lucha Libre match, and for those of you who don't know, that's Mexican wrestling. Now, I never really saw myself going to a wrestling match ever, let alone in another country, but this was actually pretty fun. There's these elaborate storylines that I'm sure make a hell of a lot more sense if you actually speak the language, and most of the wrestlers are wearing really ornate, fun, colorful, shiny masks, and everybody's screaming and having a good time. We actually went with an Airbnb tour, which was really cool. We thought it'd be nice to have a little bit more like insight into what was happening, and I'm really glad that we got that because I would have been just so lost otherwise. Bright and early the next morning, we grabbed an Uber and set out for Teotihuacan, which is this incredible ancient Mesoamerican city that's located about an hour outside of Mexico City. Our goal was to arrive right around when it opened because, 2 reasons really. One, the crowds can get really crazy, so we wanted to avoid having to stand in line while walking up ancient pyramid steps. And 2, there's not really any shade at all, so it can get super, super hot. As you can see though, we got there at a really good time because there weren't a ton of people. Our first stop was the Pyramid of the Sun, which is actually the 3rd largest pyramid in the world. So as you can imagine, we were pretty winded by the time we got to the top. Okay, about to go up these really steep steps. Small pup, wake up! Please! The smaller of the pyramids at Teotihuacan was the Pyramid of the Moon, which is a lot smaller, but don't be fooled, it's super, super steep. Because we got to Teotihuacan so early, we were actually done by 10 a.m., which was amazing because it gave us way more time to explore the city. Also, as we were leaving, we saw this, and I don't really know what it is, but I do love it. The rest of that day was pretty chill. We got food, we walked around, we hit up some shops, we got a drink in the middle of the afternoon. It was a really nice time. We also went to a park near our Airbnb, and let me tell you, the parks in Mexico City are amazing. I mean, it's like a tiny forest in the middle of the city, and as you can see, it's super lush and green. And most importantly, there are dogs everywhere. Okay, so we're on day 3 of the trip, and we're starting it in Coyoacan at a place called Casa Azul, which is actually Frida Kahlo's house, and now a museum dedicated to both her and to her husband, Diego Rivera. One thing to note about this place is that it's a super popular attraction, so you're gonna want to book tickets well in advance. Like, this is the outside of the building, and it's insane. Also, I tried to do a bounce effect. It did not really work, so I'm sorry. Going back inside the museum for a second, I just want to show off some of Frida Kahlo's outfits, because I thought that was pretty damn cool. I really like checking out markets when I travel, so next we went to Mercado de Coyoacan, which is this insanely huge marketplace that just sells anything you can imagine, like toys, piñatas, groceries, prepared foods, plants, flowers, clothes. Did I say that already? I don't know. After wandering around Coyoacan for a bit, we decided to head over to Chapultepec Castle. Now, Chapultepec Castle is an actual castle that once housed Mexican leaders and is now the site of their National History Museum. We couldn't read a ton of what was up in the museum, but the grounds were absolutely beautiful, and there was also a lot of art up, and like this mural. After that, we walked over to the Anthropology Museum, which was honestly one of the best museums I've ever been to. I don't know if you know this, but Mexico City has over 150 museums, so there is a lot to see there. Okay, if I'm being honest, I wasn't too keen on going to this museum. I've been to a lot of anthropology exhibits, and while I love a monkey, I get it. This museum, however, was sort of like anthropology by way of archaeology. Like, the stuff in it looked like they were set pieces from an Indiana Jones movie. Just super, super cool. They also had this cool wall of human faces turning into skeletons, which I am extremely into. I was starving to death after we got out of the museum, so we decided to grab some esquites, which is basically street corn but off the cob. Elote is the one that is on the cob, but it had a lot of fun toppings and was really delicious. Okay, let's be real though, the esquite was really just a pre-quesadilla snack, because I don't know if you know this, but the street food in Mexico City is phenomenal and you should eat it all. Now, these quesadillas contained huitlacoche, which translates to corn smut, and it's a fungus that grows inside of corn husks. It's actually kind of a delicacy though, so we had to try it. I'm gonna let you watch me eat now.
Quesadilla with salsa roja. They're really good. They're really spicy.
Okay, and then I'm gonna let you watch me eat again because this cheese pull is just outrageous.
Yep.
Honestly, today was all about eating because after visiting the Palacio de Bellas Artes, which is a fine art museum, we went to another market and then a cooking class. Very Mexican sandwich. Brie and blackberry jam. Now, I do want to touch on the issue of traffic because it ain't great. And that's generally speaking fine. But if you have a reservation and you are traveling by car, you just want to make sure to give yourself plenty of time to get there. Because, sometimes you just get stuck in a bumper-to-bumper traffic jam. Okay, so after the traffic jam of the century, we made it to our cooking class. Now, if you follow me on Instagram or are familiar with my blog or I don't know me in real life, you probably know that both Ben and I are obsessed with cooking and food and everything to do with it. So, obviously we're going to take a cooking class in one of the best food cities in the world. We actually booked this class through Airbnb, and it was a really amazing experience. We got to meet up with a local chef, and he taught us how to make some traditional Mexican dishes, including mole, salsa verde, tortillas, and quesadillas using those tortillas. So yeah, this took up quite a bit of time, but it was one of my favorite experiences that we had.
And by the way, all the music you can listen is Mexican.
Cool. Caramel smells so good.
It starts to smell really nice.
Yeah.
This consistency of mole is great.
Man, we are on day 5 already, which is honestly kind of insane, but we spent most of the day on one of these cute boats gliding around the canals of an area called Xochimilco. We did another tour for this one, and I usually don't love tours, but it is a lot easier when you don't speak the language. And this was a very, very chill, laid-back tour. Our guides gave us a bunch of like snacks to try and local liquors. And, you know, we spent the day in this really pretty area where actually an interesting thing about it is that a lot of Mexico City's produce is farmed here. I guess their soil is very like mineral rich, and there's obviously a lot of water, so things just grow super well here. And then we also got to check out an axolotl sanctuary. You've probably seen these dudes on like, I don't know, on the internet somewhere, but they're really cool. They're super endangered, but they're an amphibian with like amazing regenerative properties. So they can heal themselves, but they can also, I think scientists are like looking into how to use them to heal other things like humans. This is actually our last day in the city, which is really sad. We decided to go to the Sumaya Museum though. It's an art museum that's owned by the richest dude in Mexico. He lets everyone in for free though, which I think is really great. After the museum, we went and grabbed lunch at a vegan torta shop. So all the meat that you see on the grill is actually vegan, and it tasted amazing. We also wanted to make sure to try this fermented drink called pulque while we were there. I was a little afraid of it, but it was pretty good. For our last 2 days in Mexico, we decided we wanted a change of scenery. Our favorite trips usually include some time in a city, but also some time in nature. So we rented a car and set out on a 4-hour journey to a place called Tolantongo. Tolantongo is a resort nestled inside a canyon with hot springs running through it. It's got these little pools called pozas that are basically hanging off the side of a mountain, and it's straight up gorgeous. It was actually pretty cool to see different parts of the country while we were driving, and the drive itself wasn't too bad. A lot of people are very scared of driving in Mexico, but as long as you're confident and comfortable with aggressive and defensive driving, you'll be good. As for lodging in Tolantongo, there are a couple routes you can take. You can either book a hotel about 30 minutes outside of the park in advance, or you can show up the day of to try your luck for a room inside the grounds. We'd booked a backup hotel, but really wanted to stay on the grounds, and ended up waiting for around 3 hours to get a room. Despite the madness of getting our hotel room, I'm really glad that we checked this place out. The scenery was ridiculously pretty, and the pozas an unforgettable experience. But it was also just really nice to see more of Mexico's diverse landscapes, and to have a little bit of chill time after such a non-stop itinerary in the city. The way timing worked out, we ended up spending our New Year's Eve here. It was a little bit uneventful, but that was just fine after such an incredible trip. Our last day was basically just a meandering drive back to the city. We stopped in a town called Pachuca and checked out some pretty spots, got a snack in the park, and then went straight to the airport for our flight home. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want more frequent updates, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Leisure Fan Club. Bye!